Good afternoon, and thank you everyone for joining Karl Bickmore and myself today. Today we're going to talk about building an AI and automation strategy and some of the things that you should really consider as a business owner. So we're going to do things a little bit differently today. You know, in the past, you usually hear me talking a lot about all of the technical details because that's kind of who I am by nature. But today, we're going to have Karl really tell us a lot more about some of the business considerations that we need to consider when we're really talking about our AI and automation strategy. So with that, let's just jump right in. Today's hosts, we have Karl Bickmore. He is the CEO here at Raven Automation, and my name is Jared Brantley. I'm the Chief Automation Officer here at Raven Automation.
Hey, thanks, Jared. Thanks for kicking us off. I love this topic. This is not as much of the technical content. We have lots of that and happy to engage. This is more meant for the business owner or somebody trying to decide their next step. And I have to admit, this is maybe more one of my ideas. Therefore, I was maybe a little more interested. No, I love the technical things that we get into. And you know, you're going to have some great commentary to add on to that today. But you know, I think sometimes people just want to hear about the strategy piece and want to know like some of the decision things. At least that's what goes on in my head. And so maybe there'll be some folks out there that appreciate this idea. This was definitely my idea of a topic for our webinar today. And so if it all goes wrong, don't blame Jared, blame me.
That's okay. So, you know, today, like I said, we're going to talk about the top 5 considerations for business owners when you're building that AI and automation strategy. So just kind of jumping right into this, you know, Karl, what do you think it takes to future-proof your business in this new era of AI and automation?
Oh man, well, so this is a lot of this in the context of you're an MSP, managed IT provider, or an MSSP, and you're servicing customers sort of the traditional, but even more so, you're an MSP. And a lot of us have built maybe I'll take a step back. I think that one of the things that's helpful from the perspective to understand where I come from is I've had a managed IT company, one that you used to work for before you came to Raven with us, and that's still a very functioning managed IT company that we participate in our community, and we're out there growing that business and those kind of things. And then also we have Raven Automation together here, who is servicing managed IT companies, and so they are completely separate companies and totally different employees. But I kind of live in both worlds, if that makes sense. And so a lot of my perspective comes from my background of being a managed IT provider for many, many years, right? And I think that there's these eras that we've gone through in managed IT that you kind of have to watch out for, and you got to figure out the right time to jump on the curve. There's this thing called the Tuckman life cycle that says, hey, you're a bleeding edge adopter, and an early adopter, and then the normal, and then you become a bit of a laggard, and then you're stale. Or, you know, I don't know if I got those things exactly right, but the point is there's a time when you're adopting things before anybody else, and then you get into the early adopter stage where there's a group of you that are doing that, and then kind of everybody jumps on board, and then there's the holdouts, right? And we've seen this cycle in the managed IT business a few times. I remember when RMM came on the scene, and everybody's like, oh man, this changes everything, right?
Right.
You were there for that one, right?
I was.
You've done your laps as an MSP NOC leader running an RMM for thousands of computers, right?
Oh, yeah.
Then I remember BDR when it came on the scene, and that changed how we all thought about backup. And we used to all be running like Veritas, or what was it, semantic backup beforehand. I can't remember.
You had
Backup exec. Yeah.
Semantic
That's right.
backup exec.
Yeah, owned by different companies. And we had these tape things, or we even tried to do like zip drive backups and stuff like that. And so we go through this era of like trying to figure out the backups, and then comes the onslaught of the security world that well, maybe the cloud world started first. So there's these cycles that we jump on, right? And so security, there's cloud, and I think that the next major shift we have is AI and automation. And so when I talk about future-proofing your business, what I'm saying is A managed IT provider that doesn't have an AI and automation strategy is soon to be a laggard, soon to be the person behind in the conversation. Other MSPs will talk to your clients or talk to that prospect client, and they're going to be talking to things that the business owner is way more interested in. And let's face it, so many of us are still thinking about our infrastructure business where we sell firewalls and BDRs and servers even. But a lot of us are doing the migration out now. Like we've spent, it really reminds me of when we all went from like SBS Exchange servers, or just regular Exchange servers, out to Office 365, right? There was a good 4 or 5 years there where we were all just doing migrations to Office 365 all day long. We'd have 5 to 10 of those projects running at any given time, and people come to us because they're running on an old Exchange server and they want their stuff to run better, and we're saying, hey, here's your path, right? Just like we've all done from the cybersecurity, where we've introduced threat detection and all these other, knock and sock type tools. And so you get a few years of being able to take people to that new path. And I think that I see a lot of managed IT providers out there that just have not embraced or figured out the automation thing or the AI thing. And I'll tell you, from my perspective, we became fully dedicated to it when you used to work for our MSP about 3.5, 4 years ago. And so I would say we were bleeding edge at the time, but I think early adopter stage is almost past. We're getting to the normalcy side. And so if you don't have your strategy in place, I think you have an issue about the future of the strategy of your business and what the relevance will be. Because I know, like in our MSP business, we've changed our pricing strategy. We've started to say, hey, you don't have any servers, you don't have any infrastructure, we don't care about things that we used to, and there's none of those things. And so our pricing's different because what we manage is really different. But we're also adding in really nice security add-ons, which I think a lot of us are doing, which are very needed. But really what the clients are excited about is when we start talking to them about how we can help them manage and optimize a business process. And so that's a lot of what the thoughts are about today, is like, how are we doing that in our MSP? How have I experienced that as we kind of got to jump on it? I think there's nothing particularly special about our MSP other than our amazing people. And I think we just happened to jump on this trend a little earlier than some. But I would say we were the same in other trends as well, because in our MSP, we jumped on the security focus, I would say meaningfully back in 2014. And it's not like we were the only ones, but there was very few of us talking about it back then. And so from my perspective, that's just, I think the thing you have to remember, how are you future-proofing your business? Well, what is your AI strategy? So that's what I submit, is you got to stop thinking, how am I going to get the next firewall backup thing in place, server thing? It's more like, how do I move up the food chain? The infrastructure business, in my opinion, is very commoditized and not really there anymore. And so it's all about becoming more of a business consultant. Like the whole vision of what our VCIO team does in our managed IT provider is a business process consultant today and a strategy consultant, AI and automation focused. So what have you seen out there, Jared? I mean, you know, in Raven Automation, we're working with lots of MSPs of lots of different sizes. And what are you seeing the trending out there with these businesses that have jumped on the strategy?
Yeah, without a doubt, the things that we're seeing most often come into the form of reading those tickets as they're submitted, helping triage those tickets to ensure that they're getting routed properly, prioritized properly, analyzing the sentiment of those tickets so that you understand the urgency that's expressed by the client as they're submitting those things. We're seeing things as far as leveraging AI to reach out and do research on that particular issue before the technician ever touches the ticket, so that by the time your technician grabs that ticket, they have a list of potential things that they can try to address that particular solution. So you're helping speed up that resolution time. But there's also some tools out in the marketplace now too that are coming out. In fact, I just spoke with some guys over at a relatively newer company called Sift, and they're doing some really interesting things now that they're using AI to capture the interaction on the phone between your support staff and your clients, so that they're capturing your ticket notes directly, saving time from the administrative perspective, but even going a step deeper than that. providing real-time coaching to your team by leveraging that AI.
Well, that brings up two really big points about this whole future proofing and this strategy piece is if you're paying attention, there's a new ecosystem building, right? Of new vendors doing new and interesting things. Like I really loved our partnership. We've done a lot of work and we're very friendly with the folks over at Thread who are really changing the ticket dynamic for the end user, not just in ability to operate your PSA through a Teams or a Slack interface with the customer, which they love, but also triaging, automation, AI, some really cool, innovative ideas coming out of that. On the phone, same thing. So there's this new ecosystem building, and if you're not paying attention and you're not figuring out how to link these things together, you're missing out. And here's how I would illustrate that. As MSPs, it is harder for us to get after every ticket, every alert than ever, because there's more noise coming our way than ever. We set up our alerting on our Office 365. We got alertings out of our firewalls. We've got, behavioral analysis happening on the end user state. And we're seeing all these things coming our way. And we got more phone calls and we got more tickets coming in. And the reality of this is the MSP who's still doing it the manual way, handling these things and not optimizing that path, is simply going to be slower at responding and produce a less effective customer experience. And so the ones that figure this out will have the advantage because they will be better at triaging, better at communicating, better at identifying the root cause, better at responding to the customer. Like one thing like we recently started rolling out to a lot of our MSP partners in Raven Technology was the reminder, this ticket hasn't been touched and here's everything you need to know about it. And dear customer, hey, we're still looking out for it. These are things that like our technicians don't have time for. They're so busy, they feel like they got all this stuff to do, and use AI for that redundant task and help it, make the, the use of the information more efficient. It's just incredible. So if you're not thinking this way, you're behind is my point. And so that's why it's not future-proof.
Yeah, that's a great point. Going back to our partners over at Thread for a moment, with their relatively recent feature update, adding reminder agents into that platform, that's been tremendous for us with a relatively small team of developers. When we have things that we need to reach out to our clients to get their input for different tasks, we don't always get in touch with those folks right away. And having those reminder agents, we're now able to use those AI agents to summarize the ticket, find out what it is that we're actually asking the client to do in our case, and follow up with them every single day. So it's helping take some of that burden off of the development team so that they can continue developing new solutions. It doesn't fully replace the human effort, but it's great to supplement that human effort.
Well, and that's a big philosophical point we could go on about to begin with, is because I'm not of the opinion that I'm going to now have a lot less people working in my MSP. I'm of the opinion that I'm going to use AI to take the boring and customer-centric stuff that's done inconsistently and make it better, right? And then grow my team to the human element better, a better customer experience, more efficient, getting more done. And so it's like, but that's a really big point to make. It's like, are you thinking this way? Are you doing this? So one other thing I think is like a really important piece. There's a reason why we put both AI and automation. One is because, look, all of our customers are trying to explore AI right now, and they need a guide. Just like these other eras where customers have had concerns around their backup or their cloud system, or how can I get rid of these servers, or how can I do this collaboration easier? How can I have people working from home or people working anywhere and still keep a secure environment? These are all problems that they're interested in, and everybody knows that they want an AI partner, right? And AI is not meaningful as a consultancy if you don't understand the business problems and processes you're trying to solve. But there's a reason why it's AI and automation, because AI in some ways is still the unfulfilled promise when it comes to execution and doing things that a technician would do. That's why we love the combination of AI and automation. RPA automation in whatever form. We happen to feel like the best one out there for the MSP space is the Roost platform. And maybe there'll be others in the future, and who knows how that market develops. and there are other providers. I know lots of people are working on creating products for it, but meaningfully being able to see something and do it, actually connect a new account or license something or to remediate an alert, that's where the automation pairing is extremely powerful.
Yeah, without a doubt. You mentioned something else as well. We live in an age of digital noise, as you put it. On the MSP side of things, everything gives us an alert. But even in our personal lives, even my vacuum cleaner gives me alerts to tell me when I need to add more water or empty the dirty water tank, or when it gets stuck at a door entryway or something silly like that.
None of us knew we needed alerts from our vacuum.
Right? There's so much out there. And artificial intelligence is a great way to help us filter through some of that noise. But the other part of that is we live in a world of instant gratification. No one likes to submit a ticket and wait for a response. No matter how great your MSP is, that's always the biggest complaint that you're ever going to hear is it took too long to resolve my issue. So now we can take AI and we can take RPA tools and we can combine those things together to create those solutions that your clients can interact with an AI that then cause the automation to solve their issue and help deliver that instant gratification that we're desiring as people now.
It's such a good point, because it really comes down to people, when they submit a ticket, not only they want instant gratification, they also don't want to be followed up with, but they do want to be followed up with, right? And so they want you to fix their issue, but they kind of want to send it off and forget it. And so what happens is we get this ping pong back and forth of like, they submitted a ticket, we took 10 minutes to get to them. Oh man, now they're not available. Now we're going to spend the next 3 days going back and forth, figuring out a time to talk with them or do whatever we need to do. And that's just a lot of nonsense work that just can be automated, and AI is excellent at helping you through that. That's just a great way to think about that. It's a really good point. Well, look, hopefully people get the idea of why we think this is how you're going to future-proof your business. It's about raising yourself up to the stack. It's about moving from an infrastructure business or even just a cybersecurity and support business into business process automation, into strategy consulting at a level that you probably haven't been at the table before with your customers. But I'm telling you, if you can get there, there's a lot of opportunity there. And there's a lot, people say our industry is being commoditized. I say, well, what used to be our industry is being commoditized, but where you need to go is not, if that makes sense.
So this is a great segue now. What AI and automation tools do we need to be successful in this? We've talked about a few that are out there, but Karl, from your perspective, what are some of those tools that you need to be successful?
Oh, I love it. So, I think one of the mistakes some people make when they start investigating AI is they kind of get centered on what they hear about, and I would say, almost use it more like a toy. And it's novel, right? They're like, oh, look what I did with AI, and that is actually pretty awesome, and it kind of blows you away. Like one of my buddy who is like works at a creative agency and also runs a rock and roll band for fun. He just made the most amazing music video of his band using AI generated stuff. And I tell you, it blew me away. There's so many great things you can do, but it is, from a business perspective, you kind of got to focus it in on what's your business case. So I think and this comes up later in the discussion, but from a MSP perspective, I think you have to kind of like figure out what your use cases are and the different tools. Like for instance, if you're in Office 365 environment, which many of us are, most of us are, and you're not leveraging Copilot and not teaching your customers about Copilot, I think it's a huge miss, because it is a really great integrated solution. But I also think thinking I go get one AI and now I've done my AI journey is a pretty big miss as well. Right. The reality is everybody, just like everybody back in the day, started naming their product some kind of cloud thing, or 365 or whatever the thing is, because that's what everybody is. Everybody's going to make AI claims now. Everybody's like, we're integrating AI, we're doing AI, and what does that mean? And I say that there's a big variety, but really it's about a multiple tool set. So to me, it's like, if you don't have a meaningful RPA automation tool that's linking your tool set together as MSP, you have a big miss. And then if you don't have integrated AI helping you with some of these things that work with your PSA, work with your RMM, and or another agent that allows you to make executable things on command and control things on customer machines, you're missing the key elements, right?
Mhm.
And so something that does RPA style automation, and then I think the AI combinations, there's some very hot products right now, like we talked about with Thread. That other one you mentioned with the phone, SIP, I think you said was the.
Yeah, Sift. It's a new one. I spoke with their co-founders here last week. So
But I think there's also really great cases to be made for really smartly integrated security products. Maybe like I don't think anybody meaningfully runs an MDR service without some nice AI integration to help them sort through the logs. And I think there's some other really kind of great opportunities to do. I really like the stuff that focuses on customer experience. That's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of the Thread product. But I think there's a lot more to add. And frankly, I'm the classic business owner these days. I used to be the one and only technician of this organization, or of my MSP. It was out of my room in my house. Then I started growing and I did a lot of IT work. But man, I haven't been, let's call it, turning wrenches in IT for probably 10 years now. And so I'm not as up to date as I used to. I've really turned into like the classic business owner executive kind of personality that's glad I have guys like Jared around and other people to really know the technology. And so from my perspective, enablement of end user is a really big deal, and handling the end user experience. Those are the things that I like, things that improve the ability to interact. Like what's the number one change that annoys a customer? A really bad user onboarding for a new user, or a really bad termination where we really screw up and don't get the timing right, or we don't hand the mailbox over to the right person. And so AI tools that help you with documentation automation, AI tools that help you with end user interaction, AI tools that help you with setup so things are consistent. So it's things as simple as new user onboarding that has really predictable workflow that happens, and you automate the pieces that can be automated and leave the technician to do the parts that are for the human interaction, right? So that's where I come from on it. I would love your take on it, because I have a feeling your
yeah.
list is going to be longer than mine.
Well, let's talk AI models or AI tools
Yep.
specifically. There are different AIs for different purposes.
Yeah.
So Copilot, fantastic tool in the Microsoft ecosystem. OpenAI, again, ChatGPT is very, very useful for what its intended purpose is. Our team uses Claude very heavily. It's great for helping you create code and take some of those code snippets and things like that. So it's like a wonderful Google resource essentially for coders. So that's awesome. We've done some work. While we don't have a partnership with this organization, we've used a product called Hats AI, which was really, really great for the MSP that we worked with in developing with that solution. So that's
A
a
terrific resell
great.
opportunity as well to your customers.
Mhm.
Yeah, terrific
Yeah,
product, great strategy.
absolutely, very MSP friendly.
Mm-hmm.
We've already talked a good deal about Thread. That's been a fantastic product. That's been a fantastic relationship for us. So obviously that's very high up on the list for us. Products like Cloud Radio. Cloud Radio has an AI chat functionality as well. My good friend Chris over there is one of the developers behind that, and he continues to work at adding enhancements to that. He's been kind enough to ask for some feedback from me on some of that as well, so that we can help integrate more of that AI chat functionality back into RPA tools.
Well, so what AI and automation tools will help you succeed? I would say, what are the business problems you're trying to solve? And
That's the big
and
question.
so to me, it's like customer experience, technician efficiency, it's accuracy and completeness in working processes, and it's documentation. These things that all suffer from human fallacy or a busy day that can really cause for a bad customer experience, or we're too slow to respond to something. AI and automation can really bridge that gap in a meaningful way. I often refer to the managed service business is often another one of those unfulfilled promises, where we go out there and we sell the customer, hey, we're going to respond, we got these things going on and all that. But the reality it is, on a busy day, if a lot of customers happen to be calling in, or there's some like AWS outage or something, we're behind. We're not hitting our goals the way we want to. But I would say the AI enhancement really supplements that in a very, very meaningful way, particularly on the triage and the reminder stuff. But that's just one business case, one of millions I feel like you could come up with. But I think it's better to focus on what are you trying to solve and then go look for the way to solve that. Because unfortunately, just like the MSP business itself, there really is no monolithic tool. Even if you go with one of the big guys like ConnectWise or Kaseya and just work within their ecosystem, it's a million little products that sometimes talk to each other and a lot of times don't. And so you need tools that connect them together, and you need these AI that can interpret what's going on and help you make decisions that are good, better, and faster, right?
Yeah, and yeah, that brings me to the last point that I would like to make on the tools side of this is, while not an AI tool or an automation tool specifically, there is something that we need to consider as business owners as far as how we select the tools that we use. You know, now as we go to evaluate tools and vendor relationships, we really need to be paying attention to APIs. That has to be a part of our tool selection criteria now. You know, I can have all of the latest and greatest AI and automation tools that are out there, but if the other tools that I have in my stack have really, really bad APIs or APIs that don't really have lots of functionality, I'm handcuffing myself. You know, I'm not going to be able to make a lot of headway there. So that's absolutely a part of the conversation.
It's so true, and we run into this in many, many different ways. So true. I don't, businesses touting their integrated AI sometimes is such nonsense, and it's so unusable and ineffective. And it seems how so often those same businesses are the ones that have the terrible APIs. I want a business to tell me about their amazing API and API security, and that is going to enable what I want out of an AI journey. It's like I was talking to some customer, or like say, I guess maybe a potential customer at a webinar recently, no, an in-person lunch and learn event that I was leading, and they're talking about a particular product that they use that's for the construction industry and engineering companies use as well to manage projects. And they're saying, well, they have this integrated AI, but every time I go to use it, like it can't do very simple, very basic things. I want to ask it about like, what's our project resource availability? It can only tell me about one project and not my, so what's the use of that if I can't see my availability across multiple projects, right? We see those kind of problems in PSAs a lot too, where, the project piece is just terrible from a management standpoint on resource allocation. But the same vendor touts this integrated AI that's a total waste, and then their APIs is useless, very little you can do with it. And so I think your vendor selection criteria point is so well founded, and it's something we have to guide our customers through, because they won't even realize that, especially when the vendor's hyping up their AI readiness, which everybody's doing, just like everybody was, we're cloud ready, and what did that mean, right? Sometimes it was, we'll give you an RDP of a server running somewhere in a cloud environment, but it's still essentially an on-premise setup, right? It's like there's so many ways that vendors will try to work the hype,
Yeah, well, it's no secret that I was a little reluctant here when I saw AI in the title of our webinar this time, because I hate buzzwords. You know that. Everybody that knows me personally knows that I have a huge disdain for buzzwords. So yeah, it's definitely one of those things that we have to be careful about, and everyone markets AI. I mean, the toothbrush I have upstairs says it's powered by AI. I have no idea what it does or how, but that's what it claims.
Incredible.
But I will say we do see new vendors coming out in the channel as well that are embracing APIs. Let's take the new backup vendor, Slide, as an example. Full open API that we can spin up backups, we can spin up VMs off of that. I mean, it's incredible the functionality that they've given us in that API. So,
very forward. Yeah, so that should be way more attractive to you as somebody who's looking to move your business in this direction. That's a great point. Well, we're only on point 2. We probably got to move on, or else we're going to make a 3-hour webinar here. Nobody wants that.
That's where we're going. So AI and automation, what do your customers need from you immediately? Take it
Okay,
away.
I wanted this question in here because I think, and this is going to come out in some of the remaining points as well, but I think that as we've gone on this journey, we've realized that there's this flow to this. And like I said, this comes up in a later question where you need to develop some in-house expertise, some in-house capability, functionality, but really this is not going to drive home as a strategy for your business until you're being the AI and automation resource for your customer, right? And so what does that mean? Well, the reality is the vast majority of your customers are already playing around with it, but they're not very good at it. And they haven't figured out how to do it systemically, and they really don't know how to do it with a security mindset, right?
Absolutely.
And so, you know, developing things like, you know, like a lot of us as managed IT providers have an assessment we do for a customer before we bring them on, or as we're bringing them on, depending on how you do the flow. And how many of us have an AI or an automation assessment as part of that assessment, right? In fact, I find now sometimes we sell just AI and automation assessments, and then later the IT question comes up. The reality is they need education, they need coaching, they need guidance. They don't know how to do the strategy of it, and they certainly don't know how to protect their data in the process. There's a lot of opportunity there. So what do they need? They need their end users to be AI enabled. They need their end users to know how to use the tools. It could be as simple as like, hey, hold a co-pilot workshop and take them through the steps of like, hey, here's how it can author this email for you. Here's how it can help you create this presentation in minutes that would have taken you an hour before. These enablement things are the most important things they want. So what do your customers need immediately? They need end user enablement of AI, and they need business process optimization through AI. So those are the things that I would be focusing on in my, frankly, I am focusing on. And these are the things that here at Raven Automation, we're helping other MSPs with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And to piggyback off of that a little bit here, what do you need to provide as a business yourselves? Well, number one, your team. They've got to get up to speed on AI. I have mixed opinions on certifications. Carl, you and I have talked about that in the past. But things like the Microsoft AI 900, it's a fundamentals certification. Anyone can read the content and take that test and pass it. It's not incredibly difficult, but there's still some good nuggets of information that are there that will help you have those conversations and help you understand more around the AI world. So
It's
absolutely really education that you need to start providing your team so that your team can have that enablement and empowerment of your client base.
And there's some pretty inexpensive coursework that will take you through like how to effectively use Copilot in the different versions, or how to be a better ChatGPT user. I recommend you curate those. You begin recommending those to your customers, or you begin delivering them yourself. There's some really nice products you can use to deliver training to your customers if you want. End user enablement is something that we often don't get into. We will say, here's resources, here's the things that it might be worth considering how you can help with that.
Right.
That's certainly been a big draw in our managed IT company for at least a year now, of webinars and in-person lunch and learns and in workshops that we're doing. So,
right. And as part of that enablement for your end users, there needs to be some form of AI-based security training in your security awareness training. There is a lot of potential risk to have critical business information exposed to an AI if people don't use those AI tools in the right manner. So that risk is there.
Yeah, just take the Copilot example. So, I mean, folks that are on this webinar that run a managed IT company, they're going to know what I'm talking about here. It's like, how often do we come into an organization and look at their Office 365 and see like they're oftentimes licensed for security functionality that's not even turned on. There's no customization going on. And they're thinking about like, do I leverage OneDrive, or maybe they still have a server, maybe they're running Dropbox, maybe they're trying to do something else, but they haven't really thought through their data strategy. And you start exposing that stuff to AI, that's going to now allow you to ask questions and do things. Like the last thing you want is like some frontline employee to find out, everybody's bonuses because that was sitting in your OneDrive as a file and spreadsheet, and you didn't have your security lines set up correctly. So those are like pretty basic things. So like a lot of times we'll recommend, hey, if you're just looking to explore it now, maybe as an executive, license yourself and another executive or two people who will be okay. But at some point in time, if you're going to go for the end user enablement, really get the advantage for your organization of this, you need an assessment, you need to go through the security piece of this, and you need to make sure it's tight for that, and you're not exposing data you didn't intend to.
And you're going to need to make sure that you're updating your information security policies so that they are relevant to AI, and that you're putting together some policies around usage and acceptable use for AI as well.
So it's a new consultancy, just like cybersecurity has become a new department for many of us, or a new team members that have those titles. There's probably AI engineering, automation engineering to be had as an internal position or an outsourced position for your organization.
Absolutely. So my next favorite question, how do you profit from AI and automation?
Well, so this is some actual use cases for 3 customers of ours in Raven Automation, where we look at the time savings, the average cost of the employee, and see how much time saved because it was faster than it would have taken them to manually do the task. So this is an example specifically of some terrific AI and automation use cases with actual numbers to actual savings. I think one of the things that people sometimes don't realize is the amount of effort that goes in and expertise that goes into creating an automation or to leveraging AI through a system. But once it's there, the AI or the ROI just rolls in. And so sometimes you can really make a big difference. Jared, why don't you talk about some of these solutions here where you put these use cases together? Obviously, we've genericized it so that we're not using the names of customers or things like that. But these numbers are 100% real numbers from customers of ours.
Yeah, so first and foremost, the one thing that you'll notice is not all of these things actually leverage AI. Only a small handful of the things that are here actually leverage AI. Things like ticket triage and classification, that leverages AI. And if you're using products like Thread, you don't necessarily need to build an automation for that because you have a product that takes care of that. AI-based suggested solutions, that's quite obvious. It's got AI in the name there. But there are other aspects that really don't use AI at all, like setting spam best practices in your Microsoft 365 environment. So,
well, Jared, I want to insert real quick. I have a favorite phrase. So one thing to point out is a lot of times when you're talking to an uninformed end user, it's not technical. When you're talking about AI, automation is what they actually think AI is. They understand the dialogue back and forth and asking questions, doing research, like replacing your Google search with ChatGPT, which is a great idea. But they think the AI agents are out there really executing these things that they really aren't as easy to do as what you can do with an RPA automation tool like Roost. That being said, so many conditions we run into as an MSP don't need intelligence. Therefore, no AI necessary. Condition is found, solution is known, simply execute, right? No AI needed. And that's, I think, a really big message is a lot of the benefits you're going to get from this mentality, no intelligence needed, condition known, execute. So I like to say that because I think a lot of people really confuse the line between AI and automation and what it means. And really, a lot of the cost savings come out of the automation side, because that's where we're doing tasks that a person used to have to manually do.
Right. So if you've attended some of our past webinars, I like to refer to the automation journey as starting out with focusing on things that take that operational efficiency approach. And then you move into things that start to affect your client experience. And then you can move above and beyond that and start to develop revenue streams out of your automations. So what we've got listed on the screen here. Yeah, sorry, Karl, go ahead.
I say and client stickiness too, because now you're running processes for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, so what we have here is what I like to refer to as more of the foundation of automation that virtually every MSP should have. So having those automated dispatch processes and classification processes, having the automated onboarding and offboarding processes, having some level of automation for documentation in place. Those are all good core pieces that should exist for virtually every MSP. And as far as how often those tasks happen, this is all based on the size of the business and things like that. If we take ticket triage and classification, that's an average of about 3 minutes per ticket based on the information our clients have told us. We don't set those numbers. Those numbers come from what our clients tell us. But based on that, you're looking at about 3 minutes. Based on your number of tickets per day, you can actually find a real dollar value to those things. And of course, the more tickets you're touching, the higher that number is going to go. We've had some clients that have had centralized dispatchers, and they've been able to take those dispatchers and add other responsibilities to those people. They've been able to get them more incorporated into procurement, or in some cases, even sales quoting, oddly enough. So we're seeing that they're using those resources for a lot of other purposes outside of just dispatching tickets. Yeah, they'll still call people and schedule on-sites and things like that. But a lot of the mundane day-to-day things that they've done in the past, they're now being handled with automation, and it's happening as soon as those things come in. There's no need to cover somebody's lunch break or cover somebody stepping away to the restroom or something like that. It's there because you have the automation in place.
So true.
You
Well,
know,
so this is very real numbers for how customers of ours and the money that they've saved. Another way you can think about it is that amount of time was redirected to even more impactful activity that allowed those people to be either less stressed or just more customer centric or handling tasks that are better suited for the human hand, if you will. And what does that mean? You're getting more done and things are happening in a more timely manner. And this is why I think this is the future of the MSP. This is why you have to future proof. If you don't have some of these things running this way, you're doing it the slow hard way. And that means either you need to have more people around and you're way less profitable, or you're not really actually keeping up. And my experience is a lot of them are not keeping up. They're really not doing a good job of fulfilling the promise, if you will. And so this is the enablement that makes the difference. So you say, hey, look at these dollar savings. Those are very real, but it's really what do people do with that time that really makes the difference, and what kind of IT provider you are and how the customer experiences it.
Yeah. So how do you roll out your AI and automation strategy?
So this is, I think, like a really key question to this whole conversation. I think the thing is you have to build an expertise, and maybe the shorthand way to say it is like many managed IT providers we're talking to out there have gone through the cybersecurity journey and done it recently in like the last 5 years. And so the answer is actually really similar. Like you have to gain a certain in-house expertise. In my opinion, it comes down from the top. It's the owner or the management team, the executive team has to drive and be fully committed to the culture shift that has to happen to do this. Because as long as your people just keep doing what they've been doing, they'll keep quoting, let's go out and deploy that software by creating a new script. Let's go do this thing. Let's go. Let's keep using these vendors, even though they don't have API integrations. So until you really drive it from the top, your people will just keep doing what they've been doing, and they'll try to do a great job, and they'll still produce the same result, right? So it's just a really key question. You have to first make the internal shift yourself, and you have to begin developing the expertise in-house, or at least the culture in-house. And then, and this oftentimes means dedicated resources. And once again, if you don't have the opportunity, the size, or it doesn't make sense to do dedicated resource, you should outsource it, just like anything else. There's a reason why I don't have lawyers on my team. I outsource that because I need the expertise, and I don't want to pay for full-time lawyers on my team. It's exactly the same question, same methodology. So it's about an internal shift, And then it's about internal optimization, just as you described. Find use cases internally, learn how to do it, start seeing the ROI internally, and then begin the customer engagement. I feel like if you jump the chain or you try to do them both simultaneously, you'll make mistakes that you regret. You need to have a little bit of a culture shift and a little bit of an expertise built up in order to do this. You take it out of order and you'll regret it because you don't know how to talk about it, you don't know how to monetize, you don't know how to share it, and you don't know what the capabilities really are or what it takes to create those capabilities. Like that's something we really had to learn. It's like I remember early on, I'm like, Jared, what's the big deal with automating this process? I mean, just go get that license, go do this thing. And then like 60 hours later, you're like, okay, I finally got it working. And it's like, so some of these things just take more than I think us as business owners like initially understand, but it doesn't mean there isn't incredible ROI. It's just like anything else. There's an expertise, there's a skill set, there's a tool set, there's a product suite, and then there's a whole enablement process internally, like your sales people, your account manager, whoever does your inside sales to existing customer, all need to learn how to express it. Your team needs to learn how to propose it, how to put engineering plans together, make estimates around it. You need to have quoting ready for it. And so I would build the expertise internally first, and then I would go out to the customer second, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the other part of that, which is sometimes a smaller detail, but I've seen firsthand that a lot of businesses get hung up here. It's understanding when that one little customization or one feature is actually worth adding to an automation as well.
Oh yeah.
There are moments where, believe it or not, there are things that may not be worth the effort to add.
Well, such a great point. And you can get really fixated and add all sorts of extra time to creating that automation when really I like to think the Pareto curve. What's the 20% that gets you 80% there? It's like, what are the most impactful things? The reality of it is get something functioning and doing a great job that gets you 80% there, and then consider how you want to add the final touches. Yeah. Because you can really easily get yourself down a perfectionism hole. This is true of business processes.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah, because this is how all business processes work, whether you're doing it through automation, AI, or doing it through traditional, just like writing up a Word document with steps to go through. If you spend too much time thinking of every scenario and every potential combination and all these kind of things, one, it becomes unwieldy, hard to actually execute. Nobody wants to follow it, and you've really given up the good functional process that could be functioning already and doing great work for you. You just have to be very careful of that perfectionist cycle. It can be very, very problematic.
Yeah, don't let perfection get in the way of good, and don't let something just sit there unused. Take an automation, even if it's not necessarily at that level of perfection, use that automation, start getting some returns out of that. You can always add additional features and functionality to an automation as time goes on. But get them into production and use those things as quickly as possible, and push your team to use them.
Well, and this is where and we brought up this philosophical point earlier, but this is where the whole philosophical point of this is enablement of humans, not replacement of humans. If you want to go for processes that fully replace humans, you'll spend a lot of time on it, and then that one or two of the vendors somewhere in the food chain of the APIs makes a big change, and now it doesn't work again. And so you're really setting yourself up for this like chasing your tail problem. It's just, maybe one day that you'll have monolithic one AI, they'll do everything you want and they'll do all the executions, all that kind of stuff. That's nowhere near in sight, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But man, can you really enable? And so just think, what's the 20% to get you 80% there? Keep it simple. Make them elegant in their simplicity, and what they're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great place. Hopefully, some folks on the webinar here are hearing some of this, and it's helping you think, okay, how can I do this for my business? What are the steps, the meaningful? This is very strategic in our point of view. This is very industry, trend focused, So we've mentioned particular tools. Other webinars we've done get more into the details of how that works. I think it's probably a good time to just say, hey, look, you should be doing this. build out your own team. That's awesome. We're here to still answer questions and to give insights. We're out there doing this work. One of the things I love about Raven Automation is we're not platform dependent. We are not specific to one particular PSA or one RMM. And so we have experience across really all the tools that are being used out there. And so we can be a resource for you, if for nothing else, just to have a good conversation. But, you know, for those of you that don't have the in-house expertise and you want to jumpstart that process, or you want to supplement your team because you feel like you could do more and it's not easy for you to go out and hire, look, no recruiter knows how to hire an automation engineer. It's like it's a new position that doesn't exist. They don't know, people don't come to the table with this experience. You have to develop. That's what we found out at Raven Automation, is we have to take people that are essentially pretty good, either NOC engineers or some type of IT person, and then create them into automation engineers. Sometimes you take software developers and teach them the IT, but it's a faster path for an IT workflow plan to take a good IT person and teach them automation. But there is like a programming development element to it that they very much have to learn, right? So that may be a hard journey for you, or it may be hard to keep that person happy with what you're doing. And so this is where Raven Automation comes in. We're here to help you ramp up. We're here to get you to ROI. We're here to get you automations in place that would have taken you a long time to learn how to do, and we'll shortcut that learning process for you, getting you to ROI faster. You can look at our website. In our resource, you can show you examples of workflows that we've built out on multiple platforms. You name the PSA, the RMM tool, we've made them function on those things. And we have several different ways you can engage us. And so this is just something, if you're interested, I would say reach out. I think there's a slide that explains our plans.
Coming here. Actually, and I'm kind of excited to talk about these, because these are, if you're watching our webinar here, you're finding out about these before anyone else. We're going to publicly announce these at the upcoming Flow conference here in about 2 weeks. But we've come up with some new annual plans to help our partners get off of the ground. And with all of these plans, they're a 12-month commitment. We'll help you get onboarded with the Roost platform. We'll set up workflow monitoring and maintenance. A really common ask for everyone is to have some form of billing reconciliation set up. So every one of these plans actually includes a dashboard web app that we create custom for every partner that will help pull in all of those license counts for all of your SaaS tools. But depending on the plan that you choose, you're going to get a defined number of automations every year. They're going to come out on a quarterly release basis. We'll get those automations set up, make the necessary adjustments that they work with your tool stack, and then you're going to be off to the races so that you can start generating some ROI out of that platform. And of course, go ahead, Carl.
I was going to say, and these lists were created based on what our customers were telling us. These are the things that are producing the best result for them and that they're most interested in. And so it's just a really specific list. Flat rate, you get this implemented, and in the year 2, there's a new list that comes out that we've kind of already started planning that out. We initially started saying, hey, just tell us what you want us to do. Now we've gotten to a more sophisticated point of view where we say, okay, relatively low monthly fee, you're going to get these automations that would take you way more from a cost of employee perspective to build these, let alone learn these things. And if you want additional ones on top, just engage us for additional projects on top of this. This model should look very familiar to managed IT companies, right? So you got a really defined list of what you get for it, along with monitoring, along with maintenance things to make sure things keep running. And then, you know, if there's others that you want to do on top of it. In fact, we had one company approach us and said, hey, I want to do this 12-month thing, but I want you to do this level of automations in 1 quarter, and I'll pay for it accordingly. I'm like, okay, let's figure that out. Cool idea. Their idea was, how fast can I get there? You know, and so, and frankly, we'll still engage based on hourly consultations and just take workflow off of your existing automation team to help with your backlog. Or if everything you want to do is custom in some like very unique way, we're more than happy to engage that way too. But we think these plans are the way forward for so many of you that are just getting started. This is very tangible, very defined. The monthly commitment is very low in comparison to you doing this on your own. And we're more than happy to work with your team and help bringing them up to speed on this as we're going. And so maybe you won't need us long term, and that's okay. We don't mind. but maybe we will have a place at the table even as you build out your own team. That's how a lot of us are approaching the cybersecurity question. A lot of us are not running our own SOCs, but we have internal SOC engineers that are doing things that interact with our vendors. So however it works for you, we're pretty open to the conversation, and we think we're doing things that nobody else is doing in this space right now.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And with that, our team is constantly building out new automations to add to that catalog. We recently set up a Canny page to allow our partners to basically post their own ideas for automations so that all of our partners can vote on where we start building the next things to add to that catalog. So
Yeah,
if you need an automation built but don't need it right away, you can always post it there and we can start building that in our next R&D cycle, depending on the votes from our partners.
Well, yeah, so what's so great about this is you're going to benefit from what the other people who are early adopters have already learned, right? And we're basically turning that around to our customers, right? So you get the flow of what's happening in the industry. It's about remaining competitive. If that's how I view it from my perspective. It's like I don't want to be the one who doesn't have that automation if the other 3 people proposing on this managed IT deal already have it, if that makes sense. So others have learned. You can benefit from what the wisdom of the group, and that's part of what we offer. Right? That's hard to do on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Well, look at it. We're excited. Feel free to reach out to us. I think we've got a slide that gives you some links, so you can book a call with us by using this QR code, or maybe we're going to hack you with it. I don't know. QR code. No, just kidding. That I promise, it just books you a call. It brings up a calendar where you can schedule some time with our team to explore what might work for you. We encourage you to reach out just to explore it. So there's no commitment by reaching out. And hey, we're excited about the Flow Conference. It's second year this year. We're a sponsor there. We're going to be at booth 28. Jared's presenting a session there. We're honored to have the opportunity to take some level of leadership in this space. And we're excited for the conversations going on to Flow. The MSPs who are thinking about AI and automation are at Flow. And so if you are going, come see us. If you aren't going, maybe you can still figure out how to get there. It's coming up, I think, next week or the week after. And so it's coming
after next.
Yeah, coming right up here. And so by all means consider, but do go ahead and give a reach out to us if you think there's anything that we might be able to give you some of our thoughts on, or if you want to consider and see what engagement looks like, book a call and let's have that conversation. One thing also to note is a lot of times we run into folks that are getting started on this and they don't have a tool set yet. We can help you get your Roost licensing squared away as well. We're one of the very few, if not the only, that have kind of found our way into that spot where we can do that resale motion with you. We still work with Roost. They're still going to be getting on a call with you during the process, but we can help shepherd you through your Roost purchasing experience as well. Or if you've already purchased Roost and you're not getting out of it what you want, we've helped a lot of folks jumpstart that process where they kind of stalled out early. And so
Absolutely.
Good to think about reasons to reach out.
All right. Well, Karl, thank you for taking some time to join us today. And thank you everyone in the audience for spending some time with us today. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks.
Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining us.